Irresistible since 1885. In 2010, the Molkerei Ammerland celebrated its 125th anniversary with an extraordinary campaign. Let's take a look back into the history of one of Germany's biggest dairy cooperatives. In February 1885, a landowner named Wiegrefe from the village of Rehorn surprised his neighbours in Leemden with a suggestion. Ammerland should have dairy cooperatives like those in Schleswig and Holstein. Instead of making butter of a rather dubious quality on their own farms, like they had been doing up until this point, they should be processing their milk on an industrial scale. Wiegrefe, as it seems, was very convincing. On 30th of March 1885, 7 farmers came together in Rastede and founded the first dairy cooperative in the region. It wasn't long before other establishments came into being. Dairy cooperatives were founded in the neighbouring townships of Jaderberg, which can be seen here in the picture, in 1890, Westerstede in 1895, and Wiefelstede in 1897. The idea of a few pioneers had become a real movement. There is one major technological innovation that was a precondition to the establishment of milk processing on an industrial scale. In 1877, Wilhelm Lefeld invented the pusher centrifuge that could skim 100 kilograms of milk per hour, a breakthrough. Dairy centrifuge technology developed steadily during the following years. Increasingly bigger and mostly steam-powered equipment was installed. The dairies in Ammerland were becoming more and more successful. Their butter in particular enjoyed great popularity. A single brand for quality butter was introduced as early as in 1908 in the region. The outbreak of the First World War caused the dairy produce market to spin out of control. Production costs rose whilst the state was dictating lower milk prices. After a short boom at the end of the war, the hyperinflation of 1923 followed. Long queues formed in front of shops in big cities like here in Berlin. In October 1923, the wholesale price for a pound of butter was 20 billion Reichsmarks. At the height of inflation, money couldn't buy food at all. After Adolf Hitler came into power on the 30th of January 1933, the Ammerland dairies came under the influence of the National Socialists' enforced conformity policy too. Long-serving board members were often replaced by supporters of the system. The whole dairy industry was integrated into a centrally planned economy under the label of the so-called Reichsnährstand. It wasn't until after the end of the war that the dairy cooperatives were able to regain their independence. With the introduction of a new currency in West Germany and the European Recovery Programme, the so-called Marshall Plan, started off by the United States and Europe, the economy in the rural region of Ammerland was boosted too. The Ammerland dairies reacted to this increase in purchasing power by expanding their product spectrum. Moving into cheese production was a great success for many of them. The dairy branch also simultaneously experienced a modernisation drive. The milk churns were transported on chain-driven conveyors, and this provided automatic emptying and cleaning of the trusted 20-litre churns, whilst the bigger farmyards were already using larger milk containers that were emptied on location by modern milk tankers. Jobs in dairy production were changing. Instead of being physically demanding work, workers now had to operate modern technology. The year 1968 is remembered by many as a symbol of social change and overcoming borders. The new year also brought new freedom for dairy production, as most market regulations were abolished within the framework of the Common Agricultural Policy from the EEC. Member states subsidised agricultural product prices and milk quantities continued to grow. People in the late 1970s were already talking of butter mountains and milk lakes due to the surplus produced everywhere. Bottled milk was the top seller in the early 1980s due to rising environmental awareness, until cardboard packaging with hygienic advantages and a better overall energy balance overtook. When the Berlin Wall fell in November 1989, the 40-year division of Europe during the Cold War finally ended. Prior to the German reunification in October 1990, another type of merger had already taken place in Ammerland at the beginning of 1989. 6 formerly independent cooperatives formed the Ammerland Dairy Registered Cooperative Society in order to enable further growth. A new production site emerged on the green fields of Dringenburg, a district of the small town of Wiefelstede. In 1991, one of the most advanced milk processing plants in Europe started its production of butter, cheese, and powdered milk. With a fully automated production process and even its own laboratory, the Ammerland cooperative could guarantee that dairy products came off the production line in Dringenburg with constantly high hygienic standards and a great quality of flavour. And all that in the first 24 hours a day, 365 days a year dairy production cycle in Germany. Ammerland products have been marketed under the own brand of Ammerländer since 2001. The assorted types of cheese have been enjoying great popularity, not just within Germany, but also abroad. Amongst others, well-known sorts like Gouda, Edammer and butter cheese, but also specialities such as green cheese. Over 40% of production is currently exported to more than 50 countries in 5 continents all around the world. In 2009, the Ammerland Dairy Cooperative processed over 1 billion kilograms of milk for the very first time, and growth is continuing. With 2 high-performance sites, independent marketing, and just over 2,000 contractors, the Ammerland Dairy is well prepared for the full liberation of the dairy market as planned by the EU for the year 2015. Ammerland Dairy is a success story that still continues.